All right. Hey, my sports chat. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Tom. Welcome back, Pat. We're
Nick,
finally here. The preview for a playoff game. Look at us go. Good to
welcome.
be covering a playoff team. So hey, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna just go into TCU, see who we're playing. We first time we've ever played them. We um we know what we're about. Let's see what they're about.
Yeah,
Anyone want to start her off? We know they have a Heisman Trophy finalist, Max Duggan. Why don't we talk about him? He's their fuel.
I like Max Duggan as a quarterback. I think he's very talented. He's deceivingly fast,
Yep.
and he does release the ball pretty quick. And we are going to have to be aware of that, and we also have to be aware of his running ability. They've got good running backs too, so it's going to be a little bit tougher than some of the other games we played this year. But we'll just have to corral him, and if we can do that and stay away from penalties and try to keep him in the pocket a little bit. Maybe if he gets in there and he gets a little stuck a little longer, maybe he'll throw a bad pass. I really like our defensive line against him. We'll see how that plays. But I do like TCU as a team, and if we weren't playing him, I'd be rooting for him.
but yeah. I think he reminds me watching him on film. He's almost the grit and size of a Tim Tebow,
Yeah,
right-handed.
Right.
I'm trying to think of other quarterback recently that might have had that size and the ability to run and lower the shoulder and then just the grit to carry a team like he did all season. Come back from five different games, bringing them back from deficits in the second half.
yeah,
That's enough to make you not sleep at night. I think a little bit in the coaching uh, category, but skill wise, and Michigan's been there all season. So I mean, that's why you're in the Final Four. That's why you're in the Final Four.
Yeah.
It's four best teams.
Yeah. So Duggan, I watched the Kansas State game,
Yeah.
their Big 12 championship. I watched it, beginning to end live. Um, he he's kind of to me, he doesn't play like Brett Favre, but he's got the mentality. He's just gonna, as long as he's got the ball in his hands, he can score.
mm-hmm.
He's scary that way. He's actually not super huge. He's 6'2", 210. Where I'd say like your comparison with Tebow,
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
Tebow's like 6'4", 6'5".
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. He plays exactly like him.
Yeah.
And he's just got that will, and
So,
he's just like makes things happen.
yeah.
And he plays bigger than he is. I mean, you
Yeah.
just see him truck people, and he's got a 67-yard touchdown run.
Mhm.
Um, I
Yeah.
mean, that doesn't happen often with a quarterback, not named Denard.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Yeah.
and he's a gunslinger. And the thing is, right now, when you're on a roll, gunslingers are great because they win you games. But we all remember Favre's four interception games too.
oh yeah,
You can
oh
just
yeah,
get too much into that into that point where I even think he had two picks against Kansas State, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but he tries too hard, and you know Michigan's defense will be ready. I mean, you try too hard against Michigan's defense, they're gonna rip you apart.
mm-hmm.
Michigan's defense, they're gonna let you go between the 20s easily. Um, they
Yeah.
aren't gonna give a big play. You try to force one. So does a gunslinger have patience? That's what I want to know. But dude's a ball player.
Yeah.
Um,
He's
Yeah,
a gamer.
you just felt it in that game, and I think personally that I think the only reason they lost that the Big 12 championship game is for for no reason. I don't know why, but they didn't give him the ball in the last two plays.
Yeah.
They have him hand off
Right.
on at
Yeah.
a and for the viewers out there who didn't see the game, it was a goal line stand.
yeah,
Yeah.
At the end of the game to end the game, and they hand him off on some quick dives, and instead of rolling him out.
Yeah. Stuffed him. Yeah. Stuffed him four times.
So yeah, they run the air raid. Probably the closest thing to the air raid in Big Ten right now might be Maryland. And Maryland, has the players, probably not quite the players as TCU does. But they have big wide receivers. They got Quentin Johnston is 6'4". He's a first round NFL pick. When he turns pro, they got another guy who's 6'5". Their starting tight end is 6'7". And you also have your normal little scat back type on the inside, ready to go.
I think
And
I
then they
read
got a
something.
1,300-yard rusher starting at tailback. They have weapons.
I think their offensive line's all back. I think they're all returners that played all.
Yeah, they are, and
Lot of
they're fairly big.
lot of
They got a
snaps.
bunch of guys that are pretty big. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. So there's a big caveat in the room. Tom, you want to bring that one up?
There's a lot of caveats on that. I think what I have heard from some folks around Ann Arbor is they believe that the Michigan offensive line will destroy the defensive line and linebackers of TCU. They don't have anywhere near the size. I don't know if you know this, but our shortest player on the offensive line is Olawatimi, and he's the best offensive lineman in the country. He's only 6'3". Everybody else on that offensive line is over 6'5".
Yeah.
And you think of the backups, all of them, they're all just big, rangy, long. And that's really the difference. I think they average, the Michigan offensive line averages about 310 pounds, 308 pounds. But they do such a great job of getting to the linebackers, and their ability to play well together is it. And obviously they're the big award winner again, the Moore winner. And that says an awful lot. But what it doesn't bring into consideration is how well our tight ends play and how well they block. And my friend that talks about this all the time, he's so disappointed that all left. But Schoonmaker is back and playing. And you've got a number of other guys, Hibner included, that are great blockers. So this offensive line, if they decide to put a lot of guys in the box on us, just like Ohio State did, and we decide, okay, we're going to put 8 guys in our box on offense, and we can still run the ball. So we will move the ball very well.
All right. So the Big 12 is not known for their defensive ability.
No,
and they haven't been since Oklahoma and Nebraska were 1 and 2 in the country every year.
Yeah.
So this is decades long. They've been frankly shitty at defense.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're talking Duggan, throwing up Heisman Trophy finalist numbers.
Yeah.
You gotta throw it out there that he's going against not the greatest defenses.
Absolutely.
So, but they do look like they're an elite offensive team. Michigan scores 40 points a game. People forget that. So by any metric, they're an elite offensive team. And Michigan has an elite defense.
Mm-hmm.
TCU's defense is ranked 74th in yards given up.
Yeah.
And they have to come from behind in at least half their games.
Yeah, a stat that would be great to find, and I should have looked this up, was the time of possession. The average time of possession teams have playing in the Big 12 or playing TCU.
Right.
My suspicion is, TCU probably gets somewhere around 12 to 13 possessions a game, which is really high. But they get that because the teams they're playing against are playing their same style. And the old Rich Rod days of getting a 3 and out with 35 seconds coming off the clock, it's a little stupid. So, if we play our version of the game, we're going to get 9, maybe 10 possessions. That's what they're going to get. They're not going to get any more. So,
yeah. As long as I think Michigan, gets out, gets a lead, plays their style ball. We're not playing TCU style ball where we got to chase them and they get up on us and get confident. But I think offensively with our weapons, I think extra 3 weeks here to practice and prepare. The receiving core, licking their chops at the 84th passing defense that I think TCU has. It's like going against the Spartan secondary. It's like going against some of those other teams in the Big Ten. I mean, I just
Oh,
think
even Ohio State.
Ohio
Keep
State,
in mind they got Jim Knowles. He was one of the
Yeah.
best defensive coordinators from the Big 12
Mhm,
last
Big 12.
year. They
Yeah.
got him, and
3-5.
they look like drunken cheerleaders with pylons on their heads,
With
bumping
no
into each
changes.
other.
And they didn't make enough changes quick enough
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, it was not impressive, and he's like one of their top defensive coordinators in that league.
Yeah.
I think that right there is going to be the difference. Everything I remember years ago, it was something, like we'd play Michigan State and it'd be like, oh boy, I think we're better, but that's a horrible matchup for Michigan.
Mhm.
And this is like the opposite. I think this is like the dream matchup.
Yeah.
Out of top 10 teams, this is the team we wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
there's another little side story here, and I'm not sure if this plays in either direction. The quarterback for Ohio State declared for the draft. So, if he wants to go out with a bang, obviously, right?
For
Which
who?
tells me for TCU, Duggan
Oh,
declared for the
yeah.
draft.
Right.
You said
Okay.
Ohio State, but yeah, TCU
I'm sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So, here's a guy that he wants to go out with a bang, but if he gets banged a handful of times in the first, second quarter, I mean, and just gets rattled, just gets pounded, is he going to want to go out and sacrifice his body for good old TCU when he would go from maybe a third-round draft pick to not getting drafted?
Right.
I don't know. There's other pieces that go into this that we don't even think of.
Yeah. Okay. So no, I agree. And let's just take just the psychological aspect of a game like this. You take Michigan last year versus Michigan this year.
Mm-hmm.
They're all
Right.
saying the right things, and they didn't say it last year. Last year,
Right.
you didn't hear people saying we're not done yet.
Yeah.
They were satisfied going into that playoff game against Georgia.
Beating Ohio State, beating Iowa.
Yep, they were done. They were good. They were good, and they went into it and they weren't ready. Okay, they absolutely were not ready. This year they are. They're talking the game, and again, they've had such a controlled, emotional team all year, which is freaking dangerous in college. All right,
yeah, I agree.
Controlled emotion is. I do not want to face anybody, whether it's in a meeting, a boardroom, a football field, a boxing ring, anything, any kind of competition, any adversary thing. If they are controlled and emotional, that's what I fear. All right. And that's what Michigan is.
Yeah.
So they have that, and they feel like they have unfinished business because of what happened last year. And it's the same team. Mostly, of course, is the same of a team as you can have year to year in college. And what I mean by that is it's not 3 years later where there's 15 guys who are on that team.
Total
and
turnover.
They remember what happened against Georgia.
Right.
I'm not talking about that. Every one of these guys remembers what happened against Georgia. So TCU, are they happy to be there?
Yeah.
Well, they've gotten awards. They had a Heisman finalist. If they lose by 31, they still sit there and go, hey, cool.
We got there. Well, I think you remember last year that scene that they showed after the Georgia game in Michigan.
Yeah.
Of all of our players standing there watching them celebrate and the big hoopla that they did at the conclusion of that game. And it was Corum, it was Edwards, it was JJ, it was
Andrew Anthony,
a handful of guys standing there watching that. And they came out and said, that's what we want next year. We're gonna go back. We want to be back there.
Right.
That's where they are. And that's all of us kind of wondered about that. And when you come out the first 3 games of the season like they did and leave no doubt the way we played those first 3 games, and it just carried on through the season, and left everybody, kind of like, wow, okay, we're ready to go.
All right. So let's talk about our awesome team for a little bit. Edwards, Corum's out. We know that. Edwards, I heard he had a cast on in the
Mhm.
practice today.
Yep.
Yeah.
So any of you guys hear anything more on that?
I think it's the same thing he used when he had, the ball carrying in the last 2
Mhm.
weeks.
Well,
That'd be
they,
my guess. It'd be something
it
similar
looked
to that.
smaller to me, and it wasn't like he looked like
Right.
he had a softball taped around his thumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
it's
his thumb
certainly
was
not like
this.
that anymore. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
his
he's
thumb.
comfortable enough with that left hand. I think he's comfortable, carrying it the other hand if he needs to.
Mhm.
I think that's something that
So it
he
definitely
makes.
looks smaller. So I'm hoping that's either preventative and he's good to go on Saturday, or it's just smaller. And even if it's softer, that's cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like something, maybe something where they can throw him some passes that aren't
Yeah.
dump offs. So anyway, I think
Yeah,
he's going to go off.
Yeah. I
And
think so
here's
too.
why. There's another psychological thing. So bear with me here. Um, when the run and shoot was really big in like the 90s, and then it kind of died down a little bit, and then it kicked back up when like Mike Leach started being an offensive coordinator and that.
I
Um,
I think
you
Sonny
know,
Dykes is from that realm.
Right.
yeah,
And
he
SMU.
was.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's part of
Yeah,
that.
he, he was
He's
in
part of
Hawaii.
that.
He was all over the place, in all those
Right.
last weeks.
And keep in mind, I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. They
Oh yeah.
took a 5-7 team last year.
Yeah.
Fire their
Yeah.
longtime legendary coach, bring
Yeah.
in Sonny Dykes, and he's 12-0 before he
Yeah.
loses that championship game.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's doing. But traditionally, and coaches say this, when you go against the run and shoot, or in this case, the air raid, very, very similar. In practice every day, you get soft.
Oh yeah.
Because you're not sitting there hitting the same people every single day, like hard. You're not getting beat up. And when you get beat up, you're not like jumping back and trying to beat
Right.
them up. You just
Yep.
get softer and you get used to it.
Mhm.
And they don't have there's nobody in the Big 12 who plays like Michigan does. They're
No.
in, like, Tom said, we got these big guys, 2 year in a row, Joe Moore Award winners. They just beat you down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And then, do you want to keep doing that? Because there's going to be a point in that game for the first time this season that they're going to have to answer that question. And there's got to be 11 guys who answer that question correctly. Otherwise, Michigan runs away with it.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. Like, I expect them to get soft. I expect that, and they're not great to begin with.
Yeah, if they get beat down and if it's hot out there, temperature wise, and those guys are giving us the ball for 6, 7, 8 minutes, we're being able to pound that thing out. The linemen are just teeing off whenever they want to. And the physicality that Michigan plays with, the speed that Michigan plays with, I think on the defensive side of the ball, offensively, there's just yeah, I think wearing it down, third and fourth quarter, even though that's TCU's strong point. I think in the end, I think it'll be the big thing to watch in the second half. If those holes are popping open and those guys are getting
Yeah.
shoved back, 3, 4, 5 yards at a time, and we're being able to do that, and then all of a sudden we fake it and throw the ball. Those backs start sliding up to try to help, and we get somebody behind them. That'll
Yeah,
be interesting to see
I agree.
if that play occurs throughout the game, right, Tom?
I totally agree. Yeah. This is going to be it's going to be an interesting football game for us fans. I think we're going to have some very, very interesting thoughts early. And if our offense doesn't come out and move the ball, and we're in a little bit of a dogfight in the first quarter and a little bit of a dogfight in the second quarter, we're going to go into the halftime going, oh, we're fine. Well, this is a different kind of team we're playing, but I just think we just wear them down. And we're a very big, very athletic. And when you hear the national reporters talking about this game, there's very, very, very few of them that say that TCU will stay in this game. There's almost nobody. I mean, I know the line is only 8.
7.5 right now.
Yeah, it's
so-
7.5.
I just, those guys are really pretty sharp at what they do. But you talk to the national sports guys and guys that played in games. And I listen to Joel Klatt every week. He's really clear that Michigan's offensive line will dominate in this game. I don't want us to come out and sling the ball all over the place. Do it judiciously, throw 20, 22 times a game and run the ball 55 times. And, we should just torch them that way.
All right. So
Yeah.
again, you have 3 elite units, and then you have TCU's defense.
Yep.
All right. So they play a 3-3-5.
Yep.
They have to go against the passing attacks from the Big 12.
Mhm.
Michigan, the teams that have kept it close with Michigan basically put 8 in the box, and then dare JJ to throw it over them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where, like, mid-season, when we were obviously we won every game, but when we were questioning our wide receiver ability and their ability to get open, that's kind of what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We were getting stuffed a lot until the second half, and then everything would open up once we started the slow choke out that we've been doing all year. If they do that, now they're going totally outside of their base defense. I mean, adding one guy in there is fine. Everyone can come up because everyone has that. Everyone takes their base defense and can switch it around by a guy everywhere.
Move the safety up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
they came out earlier on in bowl prep, saying that they're going to try to have JJ beat him.
But
so we'll
they're
see if
not good at that.
No.
Right, and that's what makes it kind of makes you wonder why they would make that statement.
Yeah, their base D is 6 guys in the box. They got to move 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're not used to that. They're not and here's the thing. You throw a double move on, Roman Wilson or Ronnie Bell.
Yep.
It was a double move, and that guy forgets that, oh shit, that's right. That guy's, up playing off the tackle today.
Right.
Yeah.
You could see, I mean, seriously, I see big plays. They're a talented team, so they're going to make their plays. But everything else schematically points toward Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan's going to be tougher. If they play their base defense, Michigan's just going to road grade them. If they go out of their defense, Michigan's going to hit some big plays. Same thing with, that they did against Ohio State. And who do you think? Like, I mean, doing my research on this, I think Ohio State crushes TCU.
Absolutely. Oh, God, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
I think it's no doubt about it.
Stroud throws the ball 40 times and gets 450 yards.
Right.
Yeah, they're probably even more underdog probably against Georgia.
Yeah, they might be.
They're probably a 10-point dog against Georgia and a 8-point dog against Ohio State. I mean,
so I don't, and then you get the Ohio State in the second half thing. If we throw over them or there's a breakdown in coverage and we get a long touchdown, then you start getting what Ohio State did. They're selling out. They're bringing the lone safety is committing immediately to a run or whatever he sees, any kind of fake. And I'm not even talking fake like a reverse or, I'm talking like what Pat said, a play action.
Yeah.
Standard, the most basic fake ever.
Yep.
And everything points toward that. If they start guessing,
someone's going to take a peek inside.
Michigan's going to put up 28 points in the second half.
Yeah. Well, the interesting point you were making there, Griff, is that second half, Ohio State scored 3 points.
Right.
3 points. They had 2 turnovers late, but they scored 3 points.
Yeah.
And, that third quarter was just complete domination. And the only reason they got 3 points is because we tried a 57-yard field goal and missed it and gave them great field position.
Right.
If we punt that ball down to the 10-yard line, they might not have any points in the second half.
All right. So let me ask you this.
Okay.
We've thrown out like time of possession. We've
Yep.
thrown out, total yards, passing yards. Ultimately, the only stat that matters is total points.
Yep.
Okay, so we know we're an excellent second half defensive team and offensive team for that matter. Okay. Do you know how many points were given up in the second half this year?
Oh,
On average?
not many. Yeah, not many.
We've given up 116 for the season, I thought, wasn't
In the Big
Um,
Ten.
it? In the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 5.7 in the second half
Yeah.
all year.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the fun one. Since we're the defensive, since we're offensively too, we're just a team that dominates the second half.
Mhm.
You know how many points were given up in the first half?
Oh, not many. Still not many.
It's like 7.5 or something.
7.7. Patty
Yeah,
wins.
it's not many. No.
God,
Yeah.
if we were giving up 7.7 in the second half, we'd still be 10th in the country out of 131 teams. We're
Yeah.
first right
Okay.
now with 5.7, but
We can hold them.
7.7 would be 10th.
Here's
I
my-
mean, it's crazy. I mean, that the defense is elite, and it's tough to remember that because, there's not like one dominant guy every game like there was last year.
Right.
It's a group effort. It's unbelievable what that defensive coordinator's done. And to match that, I mean, everyone talks about the slow plodding offense where we're, the 14 play drive that takes 8
Yeah.
minutes. Dude, we're scoring over 20 or 4 or 40 points a
40
game.
points. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
these are two dominating groups, offense, defense.
Here's my over and under from Vegas. How many punts does Michigan have? We went to that one game. We didn't have any.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a real good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's be interesting to see how many punts we end up having. Yeah, that'd be something to watch. That'd be something
Right.
to watch. Obviously, if we're punting a lot, that means the defense is figuring us out, or we're struggling in that situation. But
Yeah, I mean,
Robin
everything
really gets in sometimes.
logically speaking, every single thing that we're going toward here, that I'm looking at is Michigan wins this game and pretty easily, by, 10, 14 points.
Yeah.
So then you got to worry about the abnormal. Okay.
Right.
We're going against a gunslinger. And to
Mhm.
Tom's point, does this guy give up when things go wrong? Well, okay, let's take it the other way. Does he
Yeah.
just play the game of his life?
Right.
Because it's,
Did that against
spotlight. First time he's ever had over 8 million people watching on TV.
Yeah.
And then you still have a running back with and okay, when we know this is
1,300 yards or whatever.
misleading, but you have a backup running back with a broken right thumb.
Oh yeah.
Can he fumble?
Right.
And then you got his backup is a guy who played all year as a backup linebacker. You think he's going to hold on to the ball all the time?
Right. Yeah.
So does that happen? Is there a tip pass? Is there just some freak thing that happens, a strip sack for 6? Is there something that just, returns?
Right.
And that's the thing, like everything, and that, that's a third part that doesn't really, we don't really bring up, but I mean, just look at special teams.
Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead.
we're just solid there. Like we don't give up a lot of stuff.
You want to take those.
So anything weird that happens has got to be like an aberration.
Yeah.
But what if a couple of these aberrations happen?
They might.
You want to be in a position there at the end where you're not letting that kind of stuff happen. You're not letting the SEC crew that's refereeing the game,
Right.
be a factor. You don't want to come down to a holding penalty or an interference call or like you said, a fumble. I mean, you want to take those areas out, which we haven't had to deal with really. I mean, Illinois or Maryland might have been the only 2 games that we had that kind of dilemma.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we hopefully don't have that, knock on wood here. We got to make
Right.
sure, get that stuff in this
Yeah.
kind of
So
game.
to me, the only other thing is that the last two games we've let the star receiver of the other team
Right.
get crazed on us.
Yep. Yep.
Marvin Harrison Jr. and Charlie Jones for Purdue.
Yeah.
Both went off, and that's a disturbing thing.
Yeah.
It is.
What's our adjustment to the short pass, which we kind of adjusted to it against Purdue, but
Right,
that
we
little
did.
5-yard pass, but we pressure the quarterback so much. Is that what's TCU going to do? Is that quarterback going to scramble when the pressure comes, or is he going to find that short, outlet pass?
Well, and that's the other. Okay, so Mike Morris is going to play, I heard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
big. I mean, because he's just menacing. I mean, he stops the run, he rushes the passer, and that's the other thing. I mean, like, if we get pressure,
Oh yeah.
if we get pressure,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great point, Pat. What's he going to do? Does he think he has enough time to go down to a third receiver? Or just hit the safety valve? Does he even know his safety valve, or is he just going to?
But that's not
running?
necessarily what we do. We get pressure, and it's a lot of times it's a coverage sack, or
Right.
we make that quarterback come off of a first or second or even his third receiver. Next thing you know, he's on the ground. If we can contain him and do that, that's really the key. And one of the big advantages we have is we are so fast at the linebacker position. And our defensive ends are still very physical and very tough. And Oki is really, really fast also. So I think that'll be fine.
It'll come down to 3 to 5 seconds. 3 to 5 seconds every offensive play for TCU. Can they get that ball within 3 to 5 seconds and be successful with it? Just kind of like Ohio State did and Purdue when they did the first half to us. It was like bang, bang, bang.
All right.
Well, one thing I looked up here, guys, and I think this is an interesting statistic also. We have not been in a shootout. We had one close game. That was definitely not a shootout.
Right.
That we have not been in a shootout. TCU has given up almost, I think it's just a hair over 300 points this year to 12 or 13 teams. That's a staggering number of points. That's unreal.
Yep.
So we know that we can score. If we have to get in a shootout, I'm okay with it, because I think we could put up 45, and I just don't think they can come close to putting up as many points as we do.
No, I mean, we're averaging over 40 against much tougher defenses statistically.
Yeah.
Now, again, you can sit there just as I'm going to, call shenanigans on their offensive stats against crappy defenses. I'm going to call shenanigans on the defensive stats of the Big Ten with, 10 horrific offenses.
Yeah.
But it's still right there. And if the average team that we played had a much better defense than these guys.
Yeah.
And then Ohio State is every bit of them on offense. We've seen them. If you combine a couple games, we've seen TCU.
Yeah.
They haven't seen us.
No, not at all.
And they have not seen our offense. They have not seen our defense. The more I talk about this, the more confident I am. And again, that aberrations, Tom, when you were gone, I just talked about the same thing, but saying that I think the only way we're going to lose if this weird shit happens.
Right. Yeah. Right. I agree. And it could happen. It just does.
I'm calling 38-20 after a fairly tight. I mean, I'm going to ignore the opponent and just go, this is going to go the same way as every other game. We're going to play a tight first half. We're going to blow them out in the second half, 38-20. And if something goes wrong, I don't think it's 31-27. I think if it goes wrong, it's going wrong for them. And it's going to be 52-10.
Yeah.
I as much as we compare them to like Maryland maybe, or Tom said Penn State even, I think is their style of play. I think, you look at those final scores, we had Maryland, I think 34-27, and they scored late. even to make it 27. I think it was 34-19 or something.
Yeah.
They scored late. Penn State, good game in the first half, and then we come on second half and beat them pretty soundly. So as you said, I would think probably like a 34-19, and then maybe we get either we'll get an extra one or they'll get one to make it closer. We'll pull it away, but and at 41, I'm thinking 41, and we hold them maybe to 20, and that's us
Like
scoring.
it. I like it.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, but yeah, you hate, it's a Final Four game, and you don't
Right.
throw a lot of the stats out sometimes in these games, and you don't, it just becomes down to emotion and
Well, we have the advantage there too.
yeah,
Yes, we do. Yes.
yeah, large crowd going to be out there in Michigan.
Yeah.
Their only advantage is they have a true gamer at quarterback.
Mhm.
A
Well, I
proven
don't know
one.
that. I don't know that that's an advantage. We have a pretty good gamer at quarterback too.
Yeah, no, we do, but
You go to
he's a
Fox,
guy used to throwing the team on his shoulders and
Yep.
running in for a score.
if you're in a foxhole in the war, you want that guy sitting next to you in the foxhole, I think, as they say.
Yep.
Out there in the
So,
battle.
So Tom, what do you got?
I'm going to go a little different on my pick, and you'll have to figure out how I got there. 37-23.
Ooh, wow, look at you.
We'll do the typical kick a handful of field goals, score a bunch of touchdowns, and they will probably not get in the end zone as easily as they might look like they can do against a Big 12 team. They might be kicking a bunch of field goals and then get a touchdown or two. I kind of see them putting 2 touchdowns on the board and 3 field goals, and us putting a bunch of touchdowns and 3 field goals.
Yeah.
So,
No, I
we
can see
shall
that.
see.
Big Jake Moody will be big. Ben Robbins, the kicker,
Yep.
kicker.
I'm calling Edwards going off. I think he gets combined 200 yards. If Corum goes pro, this is the game that starts Donovan Edwards as a top 10 Heisman favorite.
I totally agree. Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't forget about that other running back. I guess he's been practicing and he is very excited about his role, and he probably is going to get more carries in this game than you think.
Who is that?
Interesting.
Harrell.
No. You get a
our former linebacker.
no.
Oh yeah. 20, number 20.
Yeah.
No, Mullins.
Mullins. Oh, my apologies. Khalil Mullins. I got to say,
Yeah.
I got the other linebacker. Yeah, Mullins.
Yeah.
Harold's 32.
No, and the interesting thing about that, I heard the same thing. He's been practicing exclusively. He's excited.
Big back. He's a big back.
So here's the thing. I mean, we think we have the advantage on the line of scrimmage there. And we don't think they're tough, and we think they're gonna maybe wilt a little bit. I mean, you throw a 235 guy against them regularly, that could get ugly.
Yep.
Yeah,
So he could fall forward, do a Bob Perriman and fall forward for 3.5 yards without
even to the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big thing.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to it.
And we'll be back here talking about, almost assured victory, I'm gonna call it. So next week. So thanks, guys. Thanks everybody else. My Sports
Go Blue.
Chat. Go Blue.
Thanks, baby.
All right.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, Mike.